Okay, usually it's the practice when we practice mindfulness, we should support that practice. And to support the practice, there are 5 ways. One is called moral supportive factor, and the other one is the listening supportive factor, and the third is the discussion supportive factor. Fourth is the concentration, and the fifth is the insight supportive factor. So these are 5 supportive factors with which we will have to complement the practice that we are doing. And of that moral supportive factor, I'm not going to discuss because we are doing that anyway. And concentration and insight supportive factors, you have done to the best of your ability from morning till the last sitting session. I'm going to take this time for first the listening supportive factor and then the discussion supportive factor. And in the listening supportive factor, we will see how all this can be understood in the right perspective. We took mindfulness as our main topic. And in the mornings, we discuss what mindfulness is and how you develop and what techniques you have for it. So if I just refresh your memory on what mindfulness is, it's basically awareness of here, now, I am, right? So when you do that, what I mentioned was it is basically a technique of not doing anything. It is the art of not doing anything. If you are able to develop that skill, that capacity, that human ability, that potential we have, simply to observe, then you will go to that end of not doing anything and simple observation. It is not easy. That is why we are talking about this supportive factors. All what these supportive factors do is to help you to come to that mode of not doing it, right? So why you basically will have to do it is because that is what we are looking for. What we are looking for is happiness. And when we look for happiness, we have scattered ourselves. We have divided ourselves, rather than using the word ourselves. I have divided myself, right? I have divided my physical process from the mental process. So therefore, we are inflicting suffering on us. So to avoid that, in the morning, what we discussed was we will have to bring these two together. When we bring these two together, and both the components will be together and they will be wired together, and as a result, you will have an efficient living. And Buddha said, he mentioned 5 things that that you will be able to achieve by following mindfulness. The 5 things he mentioned are the first one, purification of beings. That's a very bold statement. Purification of beings, right? And when he says purification of beings, mind you, it's not just the human beings. Any living being who is able to get this message and follow this message. And even if you take only human beings, the most important thing is he's not excluding anybody. If you take simply human beings, it is not compulsory for you to be a Buddhist. We think it is Buddhism and it is that some and this some, and then only you can be mindful. Buddha is not saying that. He says, if you are a being, and we are reducing it to human beings, so if you reduce it to human being, there is absolutely no qualification. If you are a human being, you have all the potentials to do it. Having said that, he has in another discourse given 2 qualifications. The 2 qualifications are your sense faculty should be intact, right? Our eye, ear, nose, etc. The six faculties should be intact. And the other, you should be mentally sound. When I say six faculties intact, wearing glasses does not count. Because even I am wearing and all of us are wearing and very few are not wearing. That doesn't count, right? So unless you are deaf by birth and blind by birth, then it will be a bit of a problem. In the sense, why these sense faculties should be intact is because you should have food coming to those sense faculties, and then only you should be able to observe them. Otherwise, you will think, if I go blind, I will be purified. No. If I go deaf, I'll be purified. Nothing as such. There should have enough feeding to these sense faculties. And when those feedings are happening, still you are able to observe. And this is why the Blessed One says, the human beings have the full potential, so long as their sense faculties are intact and mentally sound. So that's the only qualification, and does not count whether you are from Sri Lanka or whether you are from Saudi Arabia. Does not count whether you are a brown or a white or a yellow. Doesn't count whether you are a Christian, Muslim or Buddhist. Right? Doesn't count whether you are young or old. Right? So there is no discrimination at all. Buddha says purification of beings. Right? So when I say purification of beings, there are three layers in which that we require purification. The three layers that we have to be purified are the transgressional layer and the obsessional layer, and the other one is mental corruptions, right? So when you take the transgressional layer, it is the restrainment of our tissue, please, of our physical and verbal deeds. You can take that. It's here. Oh, right. Right. So when you take our physical and verbal deeds, if we are able to restrain our physical and verbal deeds, that's a purification. And why most of us aren't able to do it is because we don't know that we are getting defiled by them. That is why so many wars are happening. That is why so many fights are happening. That is why so many cyber crimes are happening, because they don't know that they are doing it. They have all the justifications to do them, right? And the only way that you can know that you are doing them is by turning the torch towards you. Our torch is always outside, and we are aware of the surrounding. We are aware of the neighbor. We are aware of the neighboring country. We are aware of the neighboring galaxies, but we are not aware of ourselves. So long as we are not aware of ourselves, so long as we don't have inward attention, we don't know what we are doing. As a result, they feel that destroying whoever who attacks me is the only way, right? But if you have insight, if you look at you, then you will understand yourself. When you understand yourself, you will realize that any physical harmful thing happening to me, I can't tolerate. Any verbal thing that I don't like happening to me, I can't tolerate. So it's the same way the other person is also will not be able to tolerate. And this is what we call emotional literacy. And those who are teaching us emotional literacy, they themselves don't have. And with that literacy only, we will get emotional intelligence, right? So they are talking about the big words, but no actions. They know that this has to be done, but they try to do it by preserving what they are doing. They are talking about global warming. They are talking about nuclear disarmament. So it is good for them to have it. It is good for them to do it. But you should not do it. That way it won't work. If you want to take the lead, if you want to be a good person, you become a good person first. And when you become a good person first, right, you will take away the fear that others will have on you. When you become a good person, there is no reason why others should be afraid of you. But today, all who are preaching are just preachers only. No one is practicing. But the Blessed One lived the life he is preaching. And therefore, 2,600 years, it is still survived. And so long as we practice mindfulness, our attention will be inward. As a result, we will be seeing our Buddha nature, and Buddha will be living. For how long? We don't know. It depends on how long we practice mindfulness. He has mentioned in about 100 discourses, in connected discourses, there is one particular chapter allocated for it. In all those discourses, what he says is, Buddhism, or my teaching, he does not say Buddhism. He does not use the word Buddhism. He does not use the Buddhist. He says, my teaching will never die so long as mindfulness is practiced. So that power is there in mindfulness. And in this way, if you do that, that is the purification of physical and verbal deeds. Right? When you have physical and purification of physical and verbal deed, when you take away the fear from others, there is no need to be you will have fearless life as well. That is why you are able to come and sit here and close your eyes. So which means you are already, to a great extent, are having restrained physical and verbal actions. And in restrainment of physical and verbal actions, the most important thing is the verbal action. Right? Because we will have to restrain our verbal action, which is very difficult. And that is why when we do this practice, I always tap this mic in order to ensure that the noise is kept as low as possible, because restrainment of verbal action is very conducive to the restrainment of physical action. And also it is very conducive to the deeper, the layer underneath the verbal action. The layer underneath the verbal action is the mental action. So if your verbal actions are to some extent under control or monitoring, then to that extent, both your mental actions and the physical actions will be monitored as well. So therefore, when you observe precepts, in the 8 precepts for lay people, there are 4 items about the verbal actions. You should not lie, you should not have idle talk, and you should not talk frivolous talk, and there is one more. One more, I don't remember. There are 4 things of the 8. So 50% is for verbal action. And that is very, very crucial as well, because it slips. Tongue is always slipping, right? So therefore, if you control your verbal action, it will tremendously affect, support, complement your mental restrainment, which is the next layer that requires purification. The next layer that requires purification after transgressional is the habitual layer. We call it addiction layer. right? So in the habitual layer, what we have is, we will have a lot of mental corruptions, right? So not mental corruptions, you can't call them mental corruptions. They are addictions, they are habits, right? So those habits are coming into picture when you have physical and verbal restraint. When you are not doing anything bad physically, when you are not doing anything bad verbally, your mind cannot stay. Your mind cannot be silent, right? Mind has been feeding your physical and verbal actions all this time. And physical and verbal actions are not eating the food that the mind is giving. So the stock is piling up. When the stock is piling up, then you are able to see the stock, if you follow what I mean. You should be able to remember during Corona, some countries were paying you for buying oil, because the production is happening, no one is buying, right? So it was piling up. So it's very expensive to stock them, and also it is very expensive to stop the production and start again. So therefore it was cheaper for them to give some money to somebody, and if they buy, they pay us something, right? So like that, when you stop your physical production and the verbal production, the mental production that comes out will not have place to stay, and you will be able to see the stuff. And these mental habits, the mental addictions, will be able to see when you confirm that your physical and verbal actions are restrained. When do you confirm that it happened? When you come here. If you try to do something like this, then only you will be able to see this, right? So when you come here, what you do is, you don't do the things that you are doing at home. You will be simply walking or sitting or mindful eating or doing something mindfully, assuming that you have done it that way. And then that gives you a lot of areas to avoid your physical actions and verbal actions. Then your complaint here will be that you are getting a lot of thoughts. I'm sure all of you have had thoughts while sitting here. And those thoughts are the ones that the mind is generating. That is the raw material from the mind to get you to get up and go. So you can see how many have already gone. Right? It is not their fault. That is the human nature. Right? It comes up, and you should have that courage. You should have that ability to face that challenge. And if you can't face that challenge, you get up and go, and you get involved in the normal thing, and you won't be able to see the production of the mind. You have become a victim to the habits. Now, what you are doing is you are challenging them. You have the ability to see the thoughts. What do you have in those thoughts? You will be remembering the game that you would have played. I'm just taking simple examples. Or you may be remembering the movie that you have watched, or you may be remembering the party that you are going to miss. Things like that. The sense pleasures that you would have had, the mind will start giving. And sometimes it may be hatred as well. When you come and sit here, there have been someone nagging you all the time. Maybe your own parents, your best friend, or maybe your boyfriend or girlfriend. They will have a tremendous amount of turmoil coming within you, which you never expected. That has been boiling inside. Or if not, if both these are not coming, another mental addiction is REM sleep. You fall asleep. And that is an addiction of our mind. Our mind is either on the craving side, the desire side, or on the hatred side. If both these are not there, then the next level is lethargic, sleepiness. If you wake up, then you will be trying to plan as to how quickly this can be done. Can't we get enlightenment in the next sitting? Or can't I go to at least the first absorption in the next sitting? You want to do it as quickly as possible, right? Or you may be worrying whether this is the real thing. Or you may be worrying, I would have got this bit earlier, then by now I would have done a lot of things. And you maybe start worrying about why you missed it in the past. Or you may be developing suspicions. Is this the only way? As really Buddha told these things. Was he really enlightened? Are there enlightened beings now? Can I do it? And all sorts of things will come. And why those things are coming is simply because you have physical restraint and verbal restraint. If those things are not there, when you go home, the problems, thought problem will not be there. Your parents will never hear that I'm getting so many thoughts. Because you take that food and feed your physical and verbal action. So if you have had thought, therefore, it is not going backward. It is not that you are not progressing. This is the sign of progress. If you see that these type of things are coming up, what it simply says is, you are to a certain extent definitely restrained from your verbal and physical action. So in mindfulness, what I want to simply tell you is, if you see your own bad side, your own negativity, that is the progress. But when we practice mindfulness, what do you have in your mind? I will be able to remember everything from A to Z in my lecture. Or I'll be able to remember everything from page 1 to the last page of the book I read. What mindfulness does is, it will show your own negativity. And when you see your negativity, you will think that you are going backward. That is not going backward, that is the progress. Now it is showing you, the practice is showing you the problem. When you know the problem, it is easy or difficult. When you know the problem, that itself is the answer. A lot of us are trying to find solutions without knowing the problem. So what Buddha does is, he brings out the problem to yourself. So when you know the problem, only thing you will have to do is, you will have to just draw 2 lines. And therefore Einstein have said, it seems that understand the problem, and that is the solution. So that is exactly before Einstein, Buddha has said, or Buddha has given a technique, not just said it. He has given a technique for you to see the problem, right? So in this manner, if you see the problem, then it is, when you see problems, don't treat them as negativities. Don't treat that you are going from bad to worse. That is a sign of the progress. And therefore, this is very important when you practice to know this. Otherwise, you will say that, even a lot of people say, you go mad by practicing mindfulness. Not that you go mad by practicing mindfulness. Mad people are practicing. When mad people are practicing, it is definitely mad only. But even otherwise, unless you hear something like this, unless we discuss, then you will not understand that this is a sign of progress and not the sign of regress or going backward. The next layer of purification is the mental corruption layer. In the mental corruption layer, you don't know that it is a mental corruption. And she was asking in the morning, not you, that lady who was sitting there on the chair. She asked, when I said you will have to keep observing the thought, she asked for how long? And it's a very genuine question. And that is what our schools have taught us. That is what the lecturers have taught us. That is what our parents have taught us. That is what our office is telling us. There should have a timeline for everything. Right? That is because there is something to achieve. And when you have something to achieve, there is something that you will have to throw away. And that is the reason why she's asking this question, how quickly can I come to my main object? Because she wants to be with the main object. And she wants to hate the thoughts that are coming up. And that is underneath that question, which she can't know, which she doesn't know. Those are called mental corruption. Now she's not asking to go for a party or to eat something or good smell. She's not asking to satisfy her sense faculties. Now she's asking, she's having the craving in a different way to the practice itself. Right? So that's a mental corruption. So there are many mental corruptions like that. And this is simply one example that I can quote from today's discussion. And when we start discussing little later, those type of mental corruptions we can see. So this is how, when you purify ourselves in this manner, this is just one example of the Buddha. He said, purification of beings, one advantage of being mindful. And when this happens, gradually you will take away the reaction. When you take away the reaction, you will be not, they call it dukkha domanassa attagamaya, which means you will not have lamentation and suffering. You will not consider them as you. Attagamaya means you don't consider them as you. You don't identify yourself with them. Things are happening. Things that we don't like, things that we can't bear will happen. When those things are happening, if you can simply be aware of them rather than repenting on them, then you will develop your resistance. You will develop your shock absorber. You will develop your threshold of patience, right? So that is called when that non-identification of lamentation and suffering happens, then you will gradually further improve this ability of neutrality, ability of observation. And that this is one of the reasons why a lot of people in the Western world practice mindfulness. They want an answer for the problem because they have everything at their fingertips. They will have to simply press a button only. Then everything material will come. But still, they feel that there is a burning in their tummy, that they have heartburn, that they are not completely happy. They are in air conditions. They have heaters. They have all sorts of proper clothing. But still, their body is burning. That is because they don't have neutrality within them. They have continuous reaction mentality. They identify themselves with the problem. So when you identify yourself with the problem, then that burning will continue. Then you will create the negative chemicals. You will create negative energies within yourself and you will start feeling them. Right? That is why they want mindfulness, to get rid of those things. And why you will have to practice mindfulness at the beginning in the morning, I said, don't have any expectation. You simply observe. If you simply observe, the things will fall into line, they will come. But if you look for them, you will create a problem from the medication. Right? So I think it is called heterogenic effect or something. That is what has happened to the world today. Before the ailment comes, you take medication. And it will create another problem. So mindfulness, Western world is using that way. And they use as a medication instead of, a way of living. Then you will have all these problems. So one day in one of the seminars, the policymaker or policy advisor of UK regarding mindfulness to the parliament came. And he was mentioning that laborers are leaving the factories because they can identify the factories are very toxic. Workplaces are very toxic, and therefore they leave after practicing mindfulness. And then I asked, was it really due to, were the places toxic after mindfulness or before mindfulness? He was telling something, he did not understand my question. Workplaces are anyway toxic. You can't find a workplace which is not toxic. Only thing that the mindfulness do is, mindfulness will show you that the place is toxic. And when you see the place is toxic, if you go, then you are reacting. When you see the toxic situation, you will have to use that circumstance, use those circumstances to improve your threshold. You should continue to work in the place and see whether you can bear up. See whether you will be able to have a non-reactional mentality even there. And people will be amazed when you work like that. And they will keep asking, why are you so silent when such things are going on? And how are you so cool in the office? Because the office, when one is telling something, 10 others are telling 10 other things. But if you can simply keep listening and have a smile to all of those, and they won't be able to believe what is happening within you. And they may label you antisocial. May. But that way, they may feel that we are antisocial, but we will be developing our mental threshold to bear up things. So therefore, this mindfulness is not just for the sake of coming to the temple and doing a walking practice and sitting practice. It is a way of life for yourself and wherever you go. It may be home, it may be school, it may be uni, it may be your workplace, it may be even on the road. You will be able to see your own defilement and you will be able to see how defiled the outside is. But still, without getting caught with both these things, you will be able to go through them in the middle. Since all of us are Sri Lankan, we know how three-wheelers are driving in Sri Lanka. Know how they are going. They don't care which car, which vehicle is there. They will go to the beginning of the line, the traffic light. So once the vehicles are stopped for traffic light, all the three-wheelers will be in front. Because you will be able to just, pass all other vehicles and go. That is the ability that we can develop. And it is not just that ability that Buddha is giving us, is giving that ability to go drive in the wrong direction on the one-way path, one-way road. Entire world is going in one direction, but we are going on the opposite direction without any accident. Right? So if you can do that, that is the ability of human beings. All other animals are living with reactions. So you are learning. That is why somebody said in the morning, because the parents are pressing you to come. Parents are pressing you to come because there is something else that we are missing. And they want to give that to you, and it's a gift. And unless that gift is given, and most of the parents don't have themselves, so when they don't know that there is something to be given to the children. But those who have, if they can't do it, and they will provide opportunities for you to have it. And mind you, it will not be all your friends. It will not be all your friends. And when you walk on this path, you will be on your own, right? Don't expect anybody else to come, right? So if you want to have what you call peer group, it will not happen. And I have lost all my friends, let alone the friends. I've lost all my family members because I'm on this path. Family members in the sense my siblings. I have 9 siblings. None of them are practicing. None of them are contacting me. Not even my mother. And my immediate family, I had a family when I was a layperson. And they are practicing and they are in touch. And although all my other friends are not in touch with me, I have created tremendous amount of friends that are more friends than I had earlier, but all of them are practicing. So although, don't worry, even if you lose your immediate peer group or the peer group you have now, if you go to this path, there are other birds in the same category. They will come around you, right? So don't get pressure from the peer group. And also, the other thing is, you can be in the peer group and be a mindful person, right? So when I went to Canada a few years ago as a layperson, they knew my history. They knew what sort of person I am. And we were meeting after about 35 years. So it was a grand gathering, and cans on one table, bottles on one table, all sorts of meat on one table, a lot of bites on the other table. And they invited me and then gave me a glass. I said, I'm very sorry, I don't drink now. And they said, what happened to you? When did you become a piece of paper? That is what they asked. Then I started telling about mindfulness. And especially the ladies there were very interested. And you don't believe, they did not drink that day. That is the influence that you can bring to them. They did not drink that day. So therefore, you can go to the peer group and maintain your quality. Not that we can't change the world. And we can go away from the world as well. But at the same time, we can be in the world and be ourselves. Nobody is going to pressurize you to do something. And unless we have the strength, only they will be able to influence you. But if we have the strength, then if you have the courage, if you have the personality, then especially that personality will come only when you are mindful, and you will be able to happily say no to something that you don't like. And if I may tell another story before I stop. There were a few in Brisbane boys. They were taking drugs. And what they told me was, when I asked that, when I heard it, they said, you have been meditating for so many years, and you go to some high we know, and we don't take that long to get the same high. We just spend $15 and we go to the same level. So I did not have any argument, and we can't argue with you guys. So I said, okay, true. But only thing is that $15 will become 30 after some time. And that to maintain the same high. And that 30 becomes 60. 60 becomes 120. And who knows, it will be 240. By that time, you have ruined yourself. You may not be able to properly get up and walk. But I will becoming more and more younger. by slowly walking in this path. And then what I told them was, I imagined I haven't taken any drugs. I imagined certain steps of taking drugs. And I told them, use those steps and be mindful when you are taking drugs. And after 6 months, they were going somewhere. I asked, where are you going? They said, we are going to meditate. I asked, what happened to that high thing? And they said, no, we started doing it mindfully and we lost the interest in taking drugs. That is the power mindfulness is. Any bad thing, do it mindfully. Because we are not open to it, we don't see it as bad. And I have many examples. I'm just giving these 2 examples. The day in Canada, heavy boozers, just 1.5 hours of talk, they stopped drinking that day. And there is another gentleman here who was, drinking liquor for such a long time. We knew him from the university. And even when I met him after 35, 40 years, he was still taking. And but still he was practicing with me. And then after 9 months, he told me, first time in my house, I gave a dinner without liquor. So you can change yourself. Right? So therefore they say, mindfulness train the mind and change the brain. Right? So if you want to, you will have to be mindful and train your mind. And the only training in the mind is the training the ability to observe happily. Not because your parents say, but voluntarily. So if that happy and voluntary observation comes, then it will take you a long, long way in a very happy manner in your lives. So may you all have a wonderful, mindful life. Everyone, Sarah. Okay, so that is my talk for the day, which I did not do last time because we had a lot of questions. And now we can go for the other supportive factor, which is the listening supportive factor. So you can ask anything from the talk, or you can provide any report or anything relating to mindfulness. We can discuss now. Who wants to start? Young or old? Do you mind parents being here, or do you want me to chase them? Let them be here. Right, okay. Yes, you can't waste time. Who wants to start? Or should I go to everybody?
With my problem question, I think my problem is I don't know how to ask the question, or like I don't know how to articulate I think I'm in a position of being stuck, and in the position of being stuck, I have all the time I look at it in different ways. I'll remember something that I hear somewhere or something, and I have different ways of looking at it, but I really struggle to figure out what the problem is. Even when you were speaking today about, seeing the problem, in my past practice, I've been able to be like, when I have thoughts, I can say, this is my problem, this is my problem. But now when I see like, for example, if I'm struggling with uni or something, I feel like that's not my problem because I'm able to look at it. I can see my anxieties or my stress with just doing an assignment, or I can see my anger, and I can watch all those things. So to me, I don't know what the problem is, but there's that thing in my brain that's like, I feel like me just being aware of this isn't enough, or I'm doing something wrong, or I'm just struggling to articulate how I'm feeling, but just a bit stuck.
Yeah. Can you all relate to that? Yes? Yeah, okay. What happens is when you practice mindfulness, this is like opening a garbage bag. This is like opening a storage pit. It starts stinking. But when you open it, we think we will be able to clean it so quickly. And that is why we come to mindfulness. Everyone says mindfulness is the answer for all these things. But when you start mindfulness, it goes the other way around. That is because now you start seeing the problems that we have been having, that we have been accumulating for eons in our existence. Now only we see them, right? So therefore, since we have not seen, we don't have words to express it, right? And moreover, in the morning I said these are physical and mental processes, right? But have we ever looked at these things as a process? Even when he said we have a body and a mind. So we have a permanent notion of the things. But when we take our physicality, we are changing every fraction of a second. Right? So when you start seeing those things, when you bring your attention to yourself, you start seeing these fast changing phenomena. When you see this fast changing phenomena, they call it anxiety. It is not anxiety. It is the mind coming to the body. Right? So in Melbourne 2021, my teacher was not able to come because of COVID, but we had a session and I was doing some interviews like this and I was mentoring them. And there was one lady who said when she was looking at the body, she feels very anxious. And she explained how she felt the body. And then I gave the reasons why it is happening. And I told, if you go and talk to a doctor about it, and they will definitely give you medication for anxiety. And then I told the crowd, hope there are no doctors here. There have been 3 psychologists. And they said, yes, if they come with those symptoms, we will definitely categorize them as anxiety and direct them to medication. So when you bring your attention to the body, what you bring, the attention is the mental process, which you have not seen in the past, right? And that also shows the physical process. And then things happening within you so fast, you can't cope up, right? So this is why this discussion is there. He mentioned this as a discussion supportive factor. When those things are happening, you should talk to someone who is walking, who has walked at a little bit more on the path. He will be able to help you, right? So when you can't express, as you are doing now, you should start expressing. Then the other person who is trying to help you, your noble friend, is the term that is used, will be able to understand what's going on. So what you will have to do now, the question is, not explaining the question in that manner. What you will have to do now? What you will have to do is, you see this as a problem, right? You will have to see it from the other angle. You see the problem because you have an answer to it. What is the answer? Since you are mindful only, you see this. So you will have to appreciate the fact that you are mindful. You have to appreciate the fact that you are not reacting. If you are reacting, you will definitely go to a doctor, do this, do that, and all sorts of things, right? But you don't do those things. You simply are aware. And although you are aware, you have some expectation that it should not happen, right? So that expectation should not be there. Number one, you should know, you will be able to see your own defilements only when you are practicing. So you are seeing defilements when you are 100% mind. And then you should start appreciating mindfulness. And you should start being happy of being mindful. Then being happy of being mindful, nobody will be able to take away from. So when that happens, you don't care what happens around you. You will have a very strong mind. And you will be very quiet, but you will have a very strong mind. I don't know whether I made some contribution to the problem you have, or I did more problems to you. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right. Who's going to take the phone next? You want to talk? You want to talk?
The first time I think I actually understood what you're saying, vigilance like this before I understood it. Even though in English, I don't understand it, but it's like
Right. So I'm a good teacher, you mean? That's the bottom line. I'll put it to my advantage. And can you say it loud as well? Right. No, it is a fact. In Sri Lanka, I went to Sri Lanka just for 3 months. And Sri Lanka is not short of meditation teachers. And when I did my first retreat, 5-day retreat, and after that 5-day retreat, 5 organizers popped up. And what they said was, we have been practicing mindfulness before, but no one explained what it is. I'm not saying I'm that good, but I feel I can make it simplified. And I realized what I missed when I was practicing. What they do is everyone is calling meditation, 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 meditation. What I do is when I take a new group, I'm asking, why are we gathered here? I think we did this here. And what they say is bhavana. You know the meaning of bhavana. Bhavana means meditation. And then I ask the meaning of meditation. And they say anapanasati, walking meditation, bringing the attention to one point, and all sorts of things. And that is not meditation. That is not bhavana. The meaning of bhavana is cultivation, growing. And growing what? They don't know. What you are growing when you practice is the mindfulness, not the walking or the observation of the breath. So although they meditate, although they do bhavana, they don't know what they are growing. So they don't know that mindfulness is something that has to be grown. And then they don't know what mindfulness is. They know anapanasati and walking. Why these are done, they don't know. So when you just bring that link, it's very easy. All right. Any other comment? Even a complaint? Yeah, so the question is why mindfulness is started with 30 minutes, not with a short duration such as 10 minutes. There is no rule as such. You can start even with 5 minutes. I started with 5 minutes. But since this is a day program, since this is not teenagers and audience is fairly matured, I thought of hurting them a bit and giving 30 minutes. So then only you will get the grip of it. The longer you do it, better you understand it. And in fact, I wanted to do a one of 45 minutes, but when I looked at the clock, there was no time. I miscalculated the time. So otherwise, what I usually do is 30, 35, and 45 for a group like this, so that you get used to walking and sitting longer. And when you do it longer, gradually you can see how the physical activities settle down, how the mental activities settling down. And I don't know whether when you're observing, since you asked this question, was anyone you able to observe the breath? Yes, some extent. How did you feel the breath? Yeah, tummy rising and falling. Any other answers? Yeah, going in and out at the entrance of the nostril. Right. Any other answers? Yeah, something like that. Okay, so when you're observing it for some time, what happens to that pace? Does it stay the same or goes up or goes down? It gradually becoming subtler. Yeah, so this is the advantage of doing it for a long time. If you do it for 10 minutes, you will see the gross breath. You will not be able to go to the subtle breath. Right, so if you sit for 45 minutes, it not only just slows down, you may even observe that you are sitting and you feel the whole body, but you don't feel the breath. It will come to a point, through the breath, your mind will go to the body, because the breath is going to the body. It is not going outside, other than when you exhale. It goes to the body. When it goes to the body, you may start feeling the whole body. When I say whole body, you will not see your heart, you will not see your lung, you will not see your liver and things like that. But you will, in some way, you will start feeling the whole body. And after some time, if you even practice longer, you may not feel even the body, but you will just be aware that you are sitting. You will not feel even the breath. So this is why we need to increase the practice for longer period. So for a beginner, yes, you start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But over time, it should be increased. And I request everyone to get used to that habit of practicing at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes walking, 10, 15 minutes sitting. And it is important to do it in equal proportions, because walking is developing your energy factor, and sitting is developing your concentration factor. And those are spiritual faculties. Right? If you just only sit, you will develop your concentration only, not the energy. Right? So to develop mindfulness in the right way, you will have to develop both these things in equal proportions, at least at the beginning. Okay, thank you very much for that comment. Anything else from that? Or bye-bye? Right, okay. So we will wind up the session here then. And thank you very much for joining.